Okay, so this is hopefully going to save somebody a bunch of money and heartache. This is how you rebuild a 12-out starter. This may apply to 24 or 3rd gen. I have no idea. Don't really care to dive into that. That's on you to see if this applies to your starter or not. This is a part of a rebuild kit that's less than 20 bucks to rebuild your starter. This is what usually happens to the starters, why they fail, is this little contact in here. So I'm going to show you how to change these contacts, this plunger, and this is what the new updated contact looks like. So first, you're going to take the starter out of the vehicle. If you can't do that, you probably shouldn't be rebuilding them. The starter itself, you're going to take this strap off. Okay, this strap goes to provide electricity to the starter motor to spin. Oops. So you're going to take this off. There's going to be a nut and a washer there. You're just going to take that off, okay? There's 3 Phillips head screws that sit on the back of the starter in these holes here. Okay, you're going to take those out. They're really short things. They're really not stuck in there all that much, so it's not that big of a deal. You're going to flip this cover out of the way. It's going to be under a little bit of spring pressure from the plunger. There's a gasket in there. I've never really changed them. I've never really had to. If yours ripped, I don't know, maybe a little RTV or something. Then the plunger is going to come out of the back. It's going to have a spring on it. Okay, there is a ball bearing that sits down there. I've already taken this out. Obviously, I've already changed one of the pads before I decided to make this video. This ball bearing, or this little ball, sits down in that hole down there. So I'll show you guys when we go back together with it where that goes. Okay, both of these come off the same way. Okay, these are identical, so you can't really mix match them up. It doesn't really matter. The only thing about this side is it's got this little strap, and it's gonna focus. It's got this little strap right here. So make sure that's not broken. If your starter's still spinning, it's just acting like you got a dead battery, then it's either your batteries, but if you've replaced your batteries or your starter just stops working, then this gap in this pad, in the contactor itself, is actually too large for the electricity to jump that gap. So it's acting like a dead battery, but it's not. It's your starter itself. My batteries are about 3 years old now, and they started acting like they were dead. Well, they all tested good, and the charging system tested good. But yet, it still started like it had a dead battery. So this post just comes through, okay? Same way with this one. This post is separate, it comes through. Okay, these are copper, so you don't want to get all crazy with them. You saw how easy that was. Okay, then you're gonna slide the contactor out. And you can see that this one isn't worn too bad itself. It's the other one that's got that big divot in it. And here I'll show you the difference between the two. See how that has got a carved out divot in it in this one right here? It's just arcing and it's wearing out over time. So how many thousands of starts this goes through before it even gets that bad? Either way, these are updated. These are a larger pad area, provides more contact, and hopefully they last longer than this one does. So you're just gonna slide this in between your strap, and it sits actually in this little cavity. So they just push back into this cavity here that holds them. And then you're just gonna shove this bolt back through. Well, that's gonna be hard to do. There it goes. Okay, then the bolt just holds it on there like that. This bucket and plastic piece thing goes on. Okay, sorry about that. And then this just goes all the way tight. Okay, so you're gonna tighten that down. So that's what it looks like with new contacting patches on there. And you're gonna put this ball bearing down in there. So I just drop it in there and then just move it till it goes in the hole. There it goes. And then you take the spring off your old plunger. Okay, put it on your new plunger. You're gonna reuse the spring and the ball bearing in there. Okay, and then you're just gonna slide this in. Okay, the spring's gonna go in that smaller hole, the same hole that the ball bearing came in. There it goes. Okay. I'm gonna get this back together. I'm gonna set you guys down. Okay, so I was just making sure that the ball bearing didn't fall all the way down. If you push too hard, the ball bearing can fall down too far. You don't want that to happen. So then you just slide your plate back in between the two. Okay, just like that. A little finagle in and it'll go in. You're gonna put these screws back in. Okay, then you connect the strap back down the way it was, and your starter is rebuilt as far as the contactors and the plunger is concerned. So this is a really cheap way to fix. My personal experience was I didn't know that these were so easy to rebuild. Okay, so this is probably like a level 1 type deal. It's really, really basic. If you have any mechanical knowledge at all, you can do this. My personal experience was my truck was hard and starting. It acted like it had dead batteries. Batteries all tested good, still replaced them anyways. As you guys know, that can range anywhere from $300 to $600 because we got 2 batteries going. So I replaced both my batteries. Truck starts fine now with brand new fresh batteries. Truck starts fine. Okay, then I come out one day and the starter just doesn't spin. Well, what happened was the batteries were strong enough to make that gap now and get the starter going fast. But it burned, because there's a gap in there, it burns through this faster. When you start getting a gap in here, this ledge just gets bigger and bigger. And this ledge was almost burned all the way through by the time it was ready and done. So it was about, I think it took about a month after I got new batteries for the starter to just absolutely quit. So now I got my other 12 valve doing it. My other 12 valves acting like the batteries are dead. Okay, it's hard starting. But I go out there and I test the batteries and I put them on a charger and it's still hard starting. Batteries test good, everything's good. Batteries don't test bad at all. They don't even test weak. They're holding, no problem. So I'm like, well, I'll just throw a rebuilt starter on it. So I threw a rebuilt starter on it. All I did was replace these contacts in the plunger. What do you know? It starts like brand new again. Doesn't hard start anymore. Batteries acting like new again. But the first time I did this, I bought 2 new batteries and a new starter because the starter actually quit. So then I had no choice. I had to go to the store and pay $300 for a starter. So that first one cost me, $600. This is less than $20. And then the batteries are going to go out eventually. But just because it's starting like it's got dead batteries doesn't mean it actually is dead batteries. These starters, these are both OEM starters that I just bought rebuild kits for. The first truck starter started going bad at 250. This truck here is at 240. And the starter started acting bad again. The second truck is at 240. The first one was at 250. So, yeah, somewhere around that. If you got 200,000 miles, 300,000 miles, your batteries are good. Replace the starter or buy this little rebuild kit. This is a little Amazon rebuild kit I got. I'm sure it's Chinese, but I'm using it right now, and it's doing just fine. And you can have a pair of these starters hanging around, and just in case something happens for cheap, buy somebody's burned up starter. You can take this whole motor apart the whole motor assembly apart by taking these 2 Phillips head out. But I wouldn't suggest, or these 2 10 mils, sorry. I wouldn't suggest it. There's really nothing you can do. If that's bad, it's bad. Throw the $20 rebuild kit in there. If your starter's still fucked, go buy another starter. But this is cheap enough to try first. So hopefully this helps somebody out. They could have, looking back, this could have saved me $600 by going batteries first, then starter later. So throw the $20 starter rebuild in and see what happens. You can rebuild these things in 15 minutes. So it's definitely worth it. It's cheap and easy enough to make it worth it to do. And even if it's just to get you by, keep a starter rebuild kit around. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got, guys. Hopefully this helps somebody out with a 12 valve, or if this applies to some other starter. I'm sure they're all pretty much the same.